Welcome to the Elliott Confidential Podcast. I'm Christopher Elliott here with my boy Aren.
It's your boy.
It's my boy. And Aren, we are in Helsinki, Finland today.
Yes.
And it is a rainy day in late August.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this is one of those podcasts where we record it and we post it the same day, so living on the edge here.
Mm-hmm.
We've been in Finland for 2 weeks. What do you think so far?
Finland's a really interesting country when compared to Sweden.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's very interesting because they couldn't be more different,
That's
even
true.
if they're very similar.
Well, linguistically, they're definitely different.
Of course.
Swedish and Finnish could not be complete. They are so different.
Yes, of course. The people here look different.
They do.
They act different.
That's true. Yeah.
They eat different food.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're not that far from Stockholm. It's you fly there in like less than an hour. You can be there just across the Baltic.
Yeah.
We are in Helsinki, as I said before. It's raining pretty hard out there. We're staying at a place called the Hotel Maria.
Maria.
They call it Maria, even though we would say Maria.
The Hotel Maria.
The Hotel Maria is really a fascinating place because it's 4 old office buildings in Helsinki that were recycled, turned into a 5-star hotel. There are not a lot of 5-star hotels in Helsinki, or even in Finland. So this is kind of like on the same level as you would get with a Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons. It's really right up there.
Yeah.
Full-service hotel.
High touch.
High touch. White glove, all that.
Oh no, not white. I haven't seen any white gloves.
I haven't seen white gloves yet, but they're pretty. It's right up there. We're kind of like a little bit more unassuming. So for us, we're like, oh wow, thank you. Is that for me?
Yeah.
But the rooms are really beautiful. And so what they've done here is they went in and they basically gutted the place, and then they added the guest rooms. And we're on the top floor. And I bet you did not know this because you didn't take the tour yesterday, but this used to be an office building for Finnish officers. And this is where the sharpshooters were. So that's why there's these little slits in the window, is because this is where the sharpshooters were.
Oh, wow.
So I guess this building has a lot of history to it. Before we start our journey, though, let's talk about this week's question. So we've been talking about luggage a lot this entire year because this has been the year when airlines have tried to collect more money from us for our luggage, our checked luggage, even our carry-on luggage. So my question for you this week is, tell us about your last luggage experience where you had to pay maybe a luggage fee, what it taught you. Did you learn about maybe packing less? Your horror stories are welcome. We will share our horror stories in a minute, but also we will tell you how we pack less. After all, it's called the Elliott Confidential Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So Tampere. Take us back to Tampere 2 weeks ago.
Yes, so we arrived in Tampere and we stayed with your brother.
Yes.
Yes.
My brother Jeff. He's been living there for the last 30 years, and I have been a very bad brother. I have not visited him there once. He's come back to the U.S., but I have not seen him here. So I saw him in his element. And what did you think of Tampere?
Tampere is really actually quite nice. It's the second largest city here in Finland.
Mm-hmm.
And the city is actually really interesting. You arrive by train often from Helsinki. And the train station, it's a nice train station. It's not the best. It's not like Leipzig, but it's really good. And it's a quiet little city.
Tampere in late August is beautiful. You go there and the city itself, it's kind of a small city, but then you go out into the countryside, which is where my brother lives, and there's fields, there's apple trees with ripening apples on them. They're having a really great apple season. There's oat fields that are being harvested. It is so peaceful and beautiful there. I'm told that in a few more months it will not look like this because of course it's wintertime. But for now, it's nice. The weather it's cooling off a little bit. It's not winter yet, but it's definitely not summer anymore. But it's great.
Yeah. And so after that, we went to Turku. And one of the main things that you'll notice coming here in Finland is that everything keeps a low profile. So, for example, you walk through the city, there's a little bit of maybe a Russian flair in the architecture.
Yes.
But everything keeps a very low profile. It's not like Paris, the city of lights.
Yeah. No, totally. So Turku is right on the water, on the ocean, on the Baltic. And they have this place called the Finnish archipelago. Most Americans have never heard of it. But if you look at it, a map of the Baltic, so this is between Sweden and Finland, you'll see it looks like someone just shattered glass and spread it across the water. And those are little islands. It's the archipelago. And it is just the most amazing thing that I have seen. I didn't expect to see this when I was in Scandinavia. And when we drove out there, we visited a convention center that is built with local wood, and they love their saunas there. But it's also something completely sustainable. Like they're adding a windmill, and they're going to go off the grid.
What's interesting is this archipelago is called Saaristo, which is Saaristo.
Yeah.
That's what the name of it is, at least supposedly in English, but it just means archipelago. And what I find very interesting about it is that this area, Turku and the archipelago, are really important for a lot of shipbuilding. And so there was this Icon class cruise ship being built there.
Right, it's a shipyard. The Icon class is definitely not a sustainable ship, but it is huge. And so the shipyard, that's where a lot of the cruise ships are being built. And you can see this thing rising up from the shipyard. It's stunning. It's really, I've never seen a ship being built. So for me, looking at this thing, and it's very quick. You know, you're driving along the road and you're like, hey, turn your head, look it over there, that they're building a ship over there. It went by so fast I didn't even have a chance to get a picture of it. But you can find plenty of photos online of these Icon class ships being built. But seeing it in person, the scale of it is just amazing. So who would you recommend go to a place like Turku and even Tampere?
Well, the one part that we totally failed to mention was the food aspect. Turku is really renowned for its culinary scene because it has a lot of wonderful farms nearby that produce fresh fruits and vegetables. And one of the other bits that we also failed to mention is that they have a really good indoor market scene. So a lot of restaurants and a lot of bakeries. And then Market Square, which is the main centerpiece of town, is just filled with produce. Some of the most beautiful produce I've seen. I remember, actually, I took this photo of carrots, and they had like four different varieties of carrots. They had white, yellow, and they also had these purple carrots.
Purple things.
And I took a photo, and it's now my wallpaper for my phone.
Oh, wow.
Because it was a beautiful photo.
Yeah. It's Finland is in a very interesting situation politically right now because it shares a border with Russia. So they've closed that border and they feel very isolated. They feel like, you know, the only way of getting to and from Finland is either by boat or by flying. But I really, what I liked about Turku, is that it's, you know, you've got the river, you've got the ocean there, and then you have a very cultural, the town is almost 800 years old. It's going to celebrate its 800th anniversary at the end of this decade. And it has these wildly ambitious sustainability goals that it's trying to meet, to go carbon negative. All that's really important because I think that Scandinavia is in a leadership position really when it comes to sustainability. And what they're doing, we probably in the States are going to be doing in another, 10 years or so, hopefully sooner than 10 years. But I like the idea of conserving, so that's kind of cool. From there we went down south to near Helsinki to a place called Billnäs Gård.
Yes.
I know I'm mispronouncing it.
Billnäs Gård.
Gård. And it is a villa that was built in the early part of the 20th century, part of a complex of buildings that were an ironworks. They're very famous for their ironworks in that part of Finland.
Yes.
And they have restored the entire villa and turned it into a boutique hotel, only 6 rooms. Tell us about what you saw when you were there, Aren.
Well, Billnäs Gård was a really interesting concept. Is a 6-room hotel.
Yeah.
It's like a villa. And, it's a beautiful little place. It was an old home right by the river. And they've done a really good job at decorating it and restoring it into a shape, because if you look at the before and after photos, of the before photos particularly, it was in a horrible condition when they found it and bought it. But I think they've really done a good job at restoring it, and now it's a center for fine dining and meetings, and it also is just in a really great part of Finland. It's an old part of Finland that's also Swedish speaking and has a lot of history.
Yep, absolutely. All that, and there also, the area around there is beautiful. You walk, you see there's antique stores, there's a chocolate factory. The guy running that chocolate factory he's a genius. The chocolate is just so good. And then furniture factories too.
Yes, furniture and tools.
Interestingly, one of the proprietors of Billnäs, is an interior designer, and she collects old furniture and has used some of that furniture in the hotel. But there is a real Finnish furniture scene. The wood that they grow there is very hard, and so it's used in furniture that lasts hundreds of years.
Absolutely. So from there, we went to Helsinki.
And now here we are.
Yes.
What do you think of Helsinki? Like, overall impressions?
Well, it reminds me a lot of Lisbon, surprisingly.
Lisbon? Seriously?
Yeah, it does. Well, it reminds me of that just because of the way they have, for example, a streetcar, like the Vintoit, the electric, and
yes, the one that came by my room every day.
Yeah, every day, exactly.
Every morning it woke me up. And it's on the water too. I guess you have that. And there's a bakery that does mistura that we're going to visit later today.
Yes. And other than that, it's a city, it's pretty hilly actually.
Yeah.
They have a lot of cobblestone roads. I think that, it is designed more like a grid, so that makes it unlike Lisbon, although really Lisbon did have the first grid city.
Yeah, right, because of the earthquake that destroyed it.
In that old part of town. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, the weather is kind of similar to maybe winter weather. Because we're so far north, summer weather summer or this really late summer weather.
Yeah, late summer it
kind
feels
of like early winter.
Winter in California, like Southern California. And I mean, I like Helsinki. I think that if you're going to go to Finland, you should definitely spend a couple of days in Helsinki because this is where you have all the museums and some really fine churches as well. There's a large Russian Orthodox church up on the hill. I have some pictures of that. And there's a good restaurant scene here too. We've visited a couple of places. There's a good pizza place here we went to yesterday. But good for walking too.
Yeah.
Like I would not recommend walking long distances with rolling luggage because, as you know, rolling luggage is the natural enemy of cobblestones, or cobblestones are the natural enemy of rolling luggage. And boy, that's really hard. So maybe get an Uber when you arrive at the train station, but definitely avoid the cobblestones with your luggage. But other than that, though, the people here have been very polite and friendly, very Finnish. We did promise we were going to talk about luggage, so let's do that.
Yes.
This is one of my conspiracies that I've been writing about for a long time now, since the beginning of the year when a lot of the major airlines raise their luggage fees. And that is, they're trying to get you to pay more for your airfare by charging you extra for your carry-on bag. And it used to be, before 2009, most airlines allowed you to check at least one bag as part of your airfare. In 2009, American Airlines started charging for the extra bag. It said it was only going to be a temporary measure. it was lying. Not only did American Airlines expand that, but all the other airlines quickly joined and realized that they had tapped into a huge potential way of making money. And soon the airlines were making billions of dollars from their luggage fees. Mm-hmm. Then they really kicked things up a notch at the end of this last year, early this year, when they all raised their luggage fees, citing higher costs, which of course was nonsense. And then they also, at the same time, got very strict about carry-on luggage. So as a result, a lot of our listeners have had to pay extra for their luggage. And it's happened to us as well. So Aren, tell me about some of the times when we've had to pay more for our luggage and how have we gotten around it?
Well, basically any time that we have to book our flights, we have to look at the options available. So for example, when we're booking our flight through SAS, they have a basic economy option that does not include a checked bag, and it only gives you one bag.
Small carry-on.
That's one small carry-on.
Yeah, right.
Whereas if you get the Economy Plus, then you get 2 small carry-ons and then a checked bag. And there's the price differential is essentially worth it if you look at the price of getting economy, the normal economy, and then paying for the extra baggage. Yeah. So definitely that's one way of doing it. So we had to do that for every single flight here.
But I would say one thing, and that is that it allows the airlines to advertise a fare that's lower than the fare that you're likely to pay. Yes. So they can say that it's only going to be $100 to fly from Stockholm to Helsinki. But the truth is it's going to cost you more like $130 or $140 to fly because you're going to need a bag.
Yes. And one of the ways that you can get around that is that you can put in Google Flights, for example, the amount of bags that you're going to carry with you. That's one way of getting around it, but oftentimes the result of this is that it's harder to compare prices because the prices of the Economy Plus ticket are going to be different, and a different amount more. Yeah. So for example, the cheapest flight might actually have a more expensive Economy Plus, which is what you'd end up buying, than another airline.
It's, in my mind, fundamentally unfair, and it's a lie when an airline says, oh, we'll sell you a ticket, but it doesn't include the price of a bag, and that's going to be extra. And so I'm really not very happy with that. I think that what has to happen is that since most people do carry a bag, I think that Southwest Airlines has this right, at least for now, where they will include the price. In the price, they'll include a checked bag. What are some of the ways that we've gotten around this?
Well, the best way of getting around it is making sure that you comply with all the regulations and that you also, you have to comply with the regulations. You have to do your research and make sure that you're looking at ticket prices that include a checked bag. Yeah. You have to also make sure that you don't just have one bag because that sort of policy is also variable. For example, when you're traveling in Southeast Asia and in Australia, and I think also New Zealand.
If in Australia we've almost gotten ourselves caught.
They will limit the amount of carry-on to 10 kilograms.
No, it's crazy because you really can't. Most people are carrying bags that are more heavier than that, and so they will weigh your carry-on bag, and if it's over, they'll make you pack, repack, or leave some things behind. And so that you actually see people at the airport who are trying to either repack or they're throwing things out, which is really sad.
My bag, for example, is just barely under 10 kilograms. My backpack, that is.
Yeah. Mine too.
And so what you need to do is you need to separate things based on priority, actually. Yeah. So for example, the things that you absolutely cannot live without, you need to put them into your checked bag. Make sure you have a checked bag. And that checked bag, they often give you like 25 kilograms, which is a lot more wiggle room than what they're allowing you with your carry-ons.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. I mean, when I think about all of the times when we've almost had to repack or we've had to repack, there are a couple of strategies that come to mind. And the ticket agents are there not to help you get on the plane. They're there to increase the airline's revenue. So the job of an airline ticket agent has really changed. And so you are going to have to be, it isn't so much that you have to lie to them, but don't make their jobs too easy. For example, when we wear our backpacks, when we check in, they sometimes don't even notice them because they're black, and they just are like, well, do you have any bags to check? We give them our bags, all good. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that you can do too is, I'm not saying you can hide them, but you can certainly not present all of your luggage when you're checking in. Some people will just put all their luggage right there so that the ticket agent can see everything. And what I'm saying is just, if you've got like an extra bag or two, maybe slide it a little bit closer to the counter so that the ticket agent can't see it. The other thing too that I've noticed is that when you have a black bag full of groceries, that they'll kind of like look the other way for that. Like if you're just carrying some food items on, they know that you can't check that in, and so they'll let it by. But you have to just remember that that ticket agent is not there to help you get on the plane or to give you a ticket. They're there to help the airline make more money. And that's especially true in Southeast Asia and Australia. Australia is probably the worst, where we've gone like half a kilo over, not even half a kilo, and they've forced you to repack. Mm-hmm. In our last podcast, we asked you to talk about your hidden gems. That was really kind of an open-ended question, but we got a lot of responses. By the way, don't forget this week's question, which is, tell us about your last big luggage fee and how you got around paying high luggage fees. I think that we could have a lot of fun with that discussion. But in our last podcast, we had a ton of people who responded. Jane says, I suggest to people who are going to Maine to stop by Thomason State Prison. That's a hidden gem. It's not at the prison, although the inmates and guards run the shop. The inmates specialized in exquisite woodworking. We bought a beautiful wooden ship for our mantle. Who would have thought to stop by a prison? I don't know.
Yeah. Arthur writes, Oslo is an incredible city. Much to see and do. Great people, transportation, museums, fjord trips, restaurants.
Yes.
Just returned after being in Stockholm, Bergen, Oslo, and Copenhagen.
Oh man, the fjords are so beautiful there.
Yes.
There are so many places in Norway that the tourists don't get to. So definitely, yeah, I want to go back to Norway. Marcia says, I spent 2 weeks this past spring in Aveyron in southern France. It has only one highway running through its eastern side, and the rest is rural roads running through many villages. The scenery was breathtaking. At every turn, there was a little gem with historical significance. The food in the tiny cafes was fabulous, and the people were so friendly, a far cry from the big cities. It was truly off the beaten path. No crowds. Love southern France, been there many times. It's a nice place.
Ha ha ha. Mark writes, travelers need to see fairy chimneys and cave hotels in Cappadocia, Turkey, and the Lake Palace in India. Those were places, the fairy chimneys and cave hotels we've been to, but not the Lake Palace in India.
Oh, Cappadocia is so nice.
Yeah, it really is. It has a lot of history, especially if you're into Christian history.
Janet says the Nobel Peace Center in Oslo was not on our list, but we found it interesting to learn about the origins of the prize and also about the current issues with repression of women. We were at there's a Nobel Museum in Stockholm that we went to, which was also very interesting. And actually, not a lot of people go there. So yeah, definitely qualifies as a hidden gem. Thanks so much for joining us at the Elliott Confidential Podcast. I'm Christopher Elliott. Next week, we will be in Dublin, Ireland. Dublin. So we'll be seeing you from there.
All right, take care.
Bye.